Hello and welcome to another episode of Commodity Masterclass. And today I have with me a very special guest, Mr. Rishi Nathani, Head Business Development and Marketing, Multi Commodity Exchange of India, MCX. Good afternoon, Mr. Nathani, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Gitu. Thank you for having me here.
Our pleasure. Mr. Nathani, things have changed post commodity exchanges coming under the preview of SEBI. So could you please elaborate on this? How have things changed and how better is trading on commodities now?
Yes, definitely things have changed for the better after SEBI has taken over in financial year 15-16. So the first year or two was marked by SEBI bringing up the regulatory norms, the risk management norms, etc., of the commodity markets at par with the other securities markets. So people maybe on the ground didn't see much happening, but at the back end, a lot was happening. And thereafter, the impact on the ground was felt when SEBI allowed more products and participants. So, and also RBI chipped in. RBI allowed banks to become professional clearing members of commodity exchanges. So that allowed a lot of institutional might to come into the commodity exchanges, and they also allowed bank broking subsidiaries like ICICI Securities, where on behalf of which you're doing this program, to come into the commodities markets and become members of the commodity exchanges. So that was one aspect. The other aspect, when SEBI allowed more products and participants, was when first they allowed Category 3 AIFs to become to participate on the commodity markets. Thereafter, they allowed portfolio management services and mutual funds to come into the commodity markets. So mutual funds were also allowed. Eligible foreign entities, which is foreign hedgers, were also allowed to come into commodity markets. And all this increased the various participants who were allowed to participate in the commodity markets. Also, custodians were given licenses to allow these mutual funds, PMSs, AIFs to participate on the commodity markets.
Right.
In terms of
yeah. Sorry. Please continue.
In terms of products, SEBI earlier we only had futures on commodities. Thereafter, SEBI allowed options on commodity options on these futures. So we launched the gold futures, and thereafter we launched gold options, and thereafter we launched options on four other commodities, which is silver, crude, zinc and copper. After that, options on goods were allowed, and options on goods came. Then we were allowed to do index futures. So now we have a pretty wide range of products as well, along with participants.
So you said there has been the participation has increased all along, and the product line has also increased. So what about the volumes on the exchange if we talk about MCX?
So the volumes have also been growing year by year. So we have seen a pretty good growth in terms of volumes. This fiscal, we are at par with the previous fiscal, of course, naturally, because you have to see the COVID impact, and especially commodity markets get impacted because on ground, the commodity markets, the mandis, etc., were affected. But if remove this COVID year, we have been growing at a very healthy pace, and sometime this year we hit pre CTT volumes as well. So after CTT, volumes in commodity markets have taken a huge hit, but this year we are seeing that the volumes are coming back up with more people participating in this market.
World over, if we see, Mr. Nathani, the commodity market is 10 times the size of the equity markets, but in India still we are in development phase. So what should be really done to make people and participants aware and basically the retail investors aware about trading in commodity markets?
So there are certain historical reasons why these our commodity markets are not as vibrant as equity markets in India, because equity markets in the electronic form came in the early 90s. Commodity markets came in the early 2000s. So the equity markets have a 10-year advantage over the commodity markets in India. And commodity trading in India was restricted to a large extent in the previous century.
Right.
So if you look at these historical reasons, we are just a nascent market. We are just 16, 17 years old vis-a-vis equity markets, which are 26, 27 years old. So in that sense, we are playing catch up and we will get there. what is important is retail parts, more than retail participation. What is more important is if the large hedgers, the large corporates, MSMEs who have exposure to commodities, these need to participate on the markets, and also the large institutional players need to participate on the other side. Once these come in, retail will automatically come in because increased depth and liquidity is there.
Right. When we talk about the commodities being traded on MCX, you listed down a few. You said you have introduced options on 4 of the commodities and gold and silver. Any new commodities that are being planned to be offered under option, or any new product launches that you plan to do in the near future?
So in the previous, in few months back only, we launched the index futures, which is the Bulldex and the Metaldex. The Bulldex is a bullion index future comprising of gold and silver. And the Metaldex is a base metal index future comprising of all the 5 base metal contracts traded on MCX, which is copper, lead, zinc, aluminum, and nickel. Thereafter, we also launched a rubber contract this end of last year. And we keep studying contracts which are fit for launch, and we'll take a studied decision and launch it. But we have recently launched these 3 contracts, and they're picking up well. So we are very hopeful that they'll continue to grow as we proceed.
How does delivery and the settlement mechanism really exchange and work on MCX?
So actually, if you see that in financial markets, especially in, say, equities or bond markets, etc., you will find that it's pure demand, right? So the share certificate is destroyed and an electronic balance is created in the depository, and people can trade that freely. Ever since that happened, so earlier you had physical share certificates, and in the late 90s, you saw that Demat came in. Ever since Demat came in, the risk of bad delivery, the risk of stolen shares, forged shares, etc., went away. So title became very clear and easy.
Right.
After that, you saw because of this financialization, volumes on the equity markets grew manifold. In commodity markets also, we have physicality. In commodity markets, you cannot destroy the underlying commodity. That has to be there because that is the basis. However, the receipt of the warehouse where the commodities are kept is destroyed, and an electronic balance is created, which is called an ENWR, and that is traded. Now, for a financial trader, they can buy and sell this ENWR and trade. For a physical market participant who is the primary producer, say a farmer or a primary manufacturer, and the end consumer who uses that commodity as an input for their further manufacturing, or an exporter or whatever, can then take physical delivery and give physical delivery. So it is providing you the best of both worlds, both physicality and you have Demat. And I'll give you an example of gold. Say, for example, an investor wants to invest in gold. Now, on a commodity exchange, they can buy gold in various denominations, from 1 kg, 100 grams, 8 grams, and roast 1 gram. So they can do a sort of an SIP. Now they can take delivery in Demat mode and keep this gold accumulating over time. And when they actually need the physical gold, they can even take the physical delivery. They want to make jewelry. So actually, it gives you the best of both worlds. So that is what we are seeing, that in commodities, ever since this Demat mode has come in, we are seeing increased participation.
Mr. Nathani, when we talk about commodity market, it always comes to your mind that it's speculation, which it is not actually. It's basically, it gives you an option of hedging your risk in the market. So how would you define it? I mean, is this mindset changing now?
So first of all, I would say that speculation is an integral part of any market, and you will find it in every market. Yeah. However, a market should not be speculative. The market should be based on some firm principles. So commodity markets are a place price discovery enables people sow based on futures prices, or a exporter or a primary manufacturer who will produce based on future prices. So they can plan their production. Also, for example, a jeweler, the jeweler's business is to buy gold, convert that gold into jewelry, and that conversion cost, which is the making charge, is their profit margin. Right. Now, if the jeweler does not hedge that gold, what will happen is the jeweler will be exposed to the gold price movement. If the gold price goes up, the jeweler will make a lot of money. But if the gold price goes down, the jeweler will lose money. Now, this should not happen in any business. So, for the business, their primary job is to get their conversion cost and a normal profit, which they should protect by hedging. So, the primary purpose of a commodity market is to get this price discovery and allow for proper price risk management. However, having said that, in any ecosystem, you will have these hedgers, but the hedgers, so say, for example, a buying hedger comes at 10 in the morning, the selling hedger comes at 1 in the afternoon. You need people to, also other participants. So in equity markets, you'll only have investors, traders, speculators.
Yeah.
Or, but in commodity markets, you'll have exporters, importers, farmers, you will have primary producers, adatiyas, mandi traders, you will have speculators, you will have cash carry participants, you will have so many participants. So actually we have a wide variety of participants in the commodity markets which you will not find in other markets.
Mr. Nathani, how do you think options are really helping one to hedge their risk?
So options are actually a very low cost way of hedging your risk, because in options you know that your risk is limited to the amount of premium paid when you buy an option.
Right.
And your gain is unlimited on the side on which you have bought the option. So options are a way to actually hedge your exposure with a lower cost. So for example, let me again give you an example. Suppose, say, a copper manufacturer wants to hedge their future production. However, they are not sure whether the price will go up or down, but they don't want to let it go down. So what will they do is they will buy an option. They'll buy a put option. So if they, or let me take an example which gels with everyone. Say let's say a gold. Gold goes with everyone. So suppose you are an investor. Let me take from the retail investor's perspective. So suppose you are an investor and you say that okay, gold is now 46,000. Should I buy it? But what if it goes down further? So I don't want to take that risk. So you can buy a call option in gold. And if the gold price goes up, your gain is unlimited. If it falls, then you don't have to do anything, right? You only lose the premium you've paid.
Yeah.
Similarly, for a hedger also, as I said, a copper manufacturer, they don't want to hedge their future because the price is going up, but they don't know how long it will keep going up. So they can buy a put option. And when they buy a put option, if there's a downside, they'll get the full benefit. However, if the price keeps going up, they don't need to sell at a predetermined price. They can take the benefit of the upside as well.
So talking about the taxation in commodity derivative markets, how does that work?
So taxation, commodity trading is actually like business income. It's not speculative income. So taxation would be according to the business. So it will be whatever you gain or lose in commodities will be also clubbed with your other business income and losses.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nathani, for being with us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.